Welcome, everybody, to Changing of the Hip Hop Guards. That is my partner, the journalist Sincere. It's me, Uncle E, and we have the pleasure today of having the one and only Yahzeed, Yahzilla, however you might know him, coming straight out of Jersey, dirty Jersey, man. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure, man. How you doing?
Salute, brothers. Thank you, guys, man. I appreciate y'all. I'm feeling great. Feeling full of life right now. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, but so before we get started, man, I want to take this time to say thank you. For those who don't know, Yahzeed was able to come through August 12th and to the Union Pool and jumped on the mic and destroyed it. There's footage of that on our Instagram account, so make sure to follow us on Instagram, Changing of the Hip Hop Guards. But thank you once again, man. It was so dope, man. It's such a dope performance.
Thank you, brothers. I appreciate y'all, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It means a lot. Yeah.
So do us a favor, man. Why don't you take us back a little bit? Let us know a little bit about where you're coming from. I know I just mentioned Jersey, but tell us specifically where and how was it growing up, teenage years for you?
Okay, so I came up in Jersey. I came up originally. I was born in East Orange, and then I moved out to a town called Scotts Plains, which is near Plainfield. So I grew up in the era of DJ Cheese, from Plainfield. A lot of the old school cats. So growing up there, I met a lot of people who were, that's where I really started developing just the poetic. I started with writing poetry when I was a kid, and then it seemed like as you growing up through your elementary school and your junior high, a lot of times kids are they keep their talents hidden. Or and they're working it out to develop, so that's really what I was doing. I was on the low, like not a lot of people really knew that I was into music like that. But there was a select few that I linked up with, and we still good friends to this day. A lot of cats, some people you might know. I ain't gonna say no names as yet, but there's a lot of cats that I grew up around, and we were all honing our skills, and so that's why I started, getting that love for poetry and words, and seeing my brothers doing it and being around some really dope artists growing up and all developing at the same time. It was like we were on this quest together, so that's really where it started for me. Growing up in Scotts Plains was kind of like, it's suburban, so but it's it's still close to New York, but it's a different lifestyle, it's a different speed, so
right. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because being on the other side, in Manhattan, New York, and all of that, early on, like I'm talking about, like let's say throughout the 80s, going into the mid 90s, I don't think cats. I mean, certain people that might have been traveling, but not everybody was too familiar with the scene in Jersey when it came to hip hop. Right. Until certain cats started really coming out, because I think for a little while, a lot of people weren't really saying they were from Jersey.
Nah.
You know what I mean? Early on.
You were. Yeah. Like to be honest with you, a lot of people were the Jersey cats were more like they had something to prove, because the thing is that New Jersey is right next to New York. So growing up in Jersey is like you would hear all these stories. Oh, New York is just crazy and this blah 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 blah. But then it's like you see a lot of crazy shit in Jersey too, but it's just a different kind of crazy. Where it's like in New York, things are open 24/7, so you kind of can get into anything at any time. Where Jersey, everything was shut down at like 9 o'clock. So after that, that's when all the mischief was going down, because there was nothing else to do. There was nowhere to go. So that's when people started clicking up, and you would see cats hanging out, and then it'd be a pitch black street. You go walking down a pitch black street, you might not make it, down the street. You know what I'm saying? Like there'd be a whole bunch of dudes, dogs, everybody, in the cut. You walking down, yo, where you going? Like, so it was an experience.
Since you had a little experience in Jersey recently, right?
And
word.
Here's what was going on in the daytime. What was going on in the daytime? I don't want to see what's going on.
That's true. That's what I'm saying. It, Sincere. When them lights go off, that's when all the the creepy crawlers come out. So that's why they call it Dirty Jersey. Because you know, a lot of cats that I grew up with, you know, they were, you know, experimenting with drugs. You know, a lot of stuff was going on. And when you out there in the suburbs like that, you kind of you be home making shit up. You know, so cats was, you know, mixing chemicals and doing all kinds of wild shit. You know, you see all kinds of crazy stuff. So it was a real different experience because, like I said, people in Jersey always try to one up the New Yorkers. You know, it was like, oh, you think y'all crazy? Well, we crazy too. So
right.
we don't act extra crazy, you know.
Right,
but
right. And I feel like they well, put it like this, they had to kind of do a little bit more to prove themselves because of that, right? It's like
sure.
New York is New York, and you know it's a tough place, and you have to prove yourself. But I will say this, man, when they came out, I mean, goddamn, boy, Jersey got some serious, you know, when it comes to talent and DJing and MCing and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Great MCs, great musicians, a lot of great musicians, a lot of great athletes. I mean, I would like to be honest with you, like I went to the same high school that Star and Buck Wild went to. High school. You know what I mean? So there was also some famous I don't know if y'all go back to the 80s, you know, Ronaldo Nehemiah, Skeetsy Nehemiah. See, I'm an old school dude, so I go back to the 80s, you know. So Skeetsy Nehemiah went to my high school as well, you know, and you know,
was Star bugged out back then too?
I never saw them back then like that. Like they were some years ahead of me. But I was back there, you know. I was watching, you know, everything transpire and things were changing.
He's a little bit older than us, I think.
Yeah,
he's a little bit older. Yeah.
Slightly a lot. Yeah, you know. Yeah.
You talked about growing up in Jersey. Before getting into music, what can you remember about the music scene coming up? What were you witnessing early on?
So I was witnessing like there were certain cats in my neighborhood. There was one of my dudes, this cat named Norman, you know what I mean? And you know, Storm and Norm, he had like a studio. We were young coming up, and like, you know, we used to hear him playing all kinds of stuff, and you know, it got us all like really thirsting, like, who is this? What's that? You know? And then, like, you know, back then, you know, you had to listen to, like, you know, either like the Rap Attack, you know, or the late night shows, you know, where you had to get your tape cassette ready, you know, catch that show because everybody's gonna play it for the next week, you know. So you wanted to be the one that had that tape, you know, like, oh, I heard that too, you know. So everybody was kind of hinging. They were all like, their ears was really close to that sound growing up because everybody was experiencing it, but from their own little, you know, sections. But then when you would come together, you might see them throw a jam in the park, and it'd be like, you know, you hear all this music and see all these people, like, who are these people? But then it just showed us that like this culture was bigger than what we thought it was. You know, like when I was coming up, my parents kept telling me, "Oh, this is a fad; it ain't gonna last." You know, you're wasting your time. You know, and I just is what spoke to me. So watching them play all this music, and just, you know, seeing the energy and people dancing and break dancing. I mean, I was break dancing, popping. I used to go to the mall, you know, my box with my brothers, and we'd be breaking, and my mother be shopping, and we'd be over here, you know. We go post up in the middle of and start breaking, you know, have a whole little crowd, you know. So we caught on to that energy and that fever early. And you know, even with the graffiti, it was all these elements were all intertwined, you know what I mean? Like I remember going out and doing graffiti with my cousins and running from cops and doing all kinds of stuff as a kid. But the hip hop was what really stuck to me. It stood out to me. It was a way that I felt that it was speaking for me, not just the generation, but it was speaking for me personally. And so I kind of really fell in love with it. You know what I mean? For a lack of better way of saying it. But that was the biggest inspiration, was seeing all the older heads really getting into that and seeing how they, you know, they were dressing with the styles at the time. You know, it was like you had your, you know, your shell toes with your fat laces, you know, you had your Kango, you had your bombers, your shearlings, you know, your big name belt buckles, you know, and it was just like the style, and seeing how people were moving at that time. It was something that you wanted to be a part of, because you saw this developing, like, because like I said, we were younger at that time. So it was like, where did this come from? And it's like now I'm seeing all these older heads doing this, and as younger ones, you always looked up to like, you know, some of the older ones, and you know, you want to be like some of the older ones. So seeing that, it was like, yo, this is cool.
At what point did you start taking your writing serious? Give us like a timeline as far as year as well.
I think that's the funny thing. So it all kind of goes together where I started taking writing seriously. I would say like in junior high. I started writing though when I was like maybe about 7, 8. You know, me and my pops. You know, I wrote a poem at like 7, and I remember my father was like, "Oh, you know, you need to type that up." You know, on the old Smith Corona. You know, old school shit, right? So I remember my pop telling me to type up a poem, and you know, he would take me to parties with him because I used to hang out with my pops, and he would go to parties with all these older people. They all getting high and drunk, smoking, and you know, I'm a little kid. You know, hey, you know, hey, spit that poem. You know, I'm like, oh my god, you know, put me right on Front Street. So I started early developing like this thing for that crowd and just being on the spot and being able to perform. But I started writing when I was a kid. And then I just, like I said, I kept it on the down low. No one really knew, you know, elementary, no one knew. Junior high, no one really knew except a couple. But that's when I really started taking it seriously in junior high. And that's when I kind of formed a little clique with some of my neighborhood friends. And then from there, when we kind of started going to high school, that's when it started getting kind of spreading around where people were like, oh, those are them cats that rhyme. Those are them cats that spit. You know, and there would be cats that would come from other towns. They would hear about, you know, some of us, or cats would come from other towns, like, oh, you know, because word travels, you know. And back then, it was no texting and tweeting and all that, you know, it was word of mouth. And so people knew. And so when, you know, we got a certain level of skill, like people would come from other towns to try to challenge, you know, like, oh, you know, Plainfield pulling up after school, you know, 3 o'clock, you know, instead of a fight, it was a battle. You know? So I remember, you know, being around cats and really seeing hip hop in the rawest form, and it was beautiful, you know. But that's when I started taking it serious. It was like that, like the last couple, like the last year of junior high going into high school.
Anything materialized as far as you taking it serious, or your crew click? Did you guys record anything?
Yeah. So that's the thing. As we were growing up, watching the older ones, some of the older ones saw that we had some talent, and so there was some older cats from my high school who were a couple years ahead of us that they saw what we were doing. So there was one dude, my man, rest in peace, my man Winston, my man Don Q, rest in peace. But he took a liking to what we were doing, and next thing you know, we formed a crew, and we started adding on like different people, like, you know, and we were all developing, and we would go by Q's crib, who had all the, you know, studio equipment. Back then he had a 4-track, you know what I mean, and we was out there rocking, you know, and he would play us some beats. We'd be like, oh shit, what? And then next thing you know, it was just like now we're going in full head of steam of where we wanted to do. We wanted to do hip hop. We were doing it on the streets, but then it was like, now we have a studio. Now we have a producer. Now we have, you know, scratches. We have, you know, more elements to the hip hop to make it complete. And that's when we really started developing and getting bigger and stronger as a crew, and developing each of our skills individually, of course. You know. Yeah.
So did you have, when you started to pick up the pen and write and everything, what were some of your influences? I mean, what you know, who were you? Like, some might say they were listening to LL and I kind of was following that type of pattern.
Yeah.
What was it for you?
Well, I'm gonna say probably well, the first song that really made me want to rhyme, I would say, was Run DMC. They had a song called 30 Days. You know, like, you know, if you find that you don't like my ways, well, you can send me back in 30.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So I was on the bus, on the school bus, like, you know, continuing that, like, oh, you won't send me back in 30 days because I'm too fresh, because that was the word back then, and that's my way, you know. So that was like the first time where I was really like, oh, let me flip this now and let me turn it up a notch. But growing up, I was always one of my favorites was I gotta say Big Daddy Kane. Big Daddy Kane had it all. He was smooth. He was hard. He was lyrical. You know, he had knowledge of self. He had a lot of things that I loved how his whole demeanor was. He could go from fast to slow on the same line. You know, so it was very much like going to school studying Kane. You know, but Rakim, of course, KRS. Just seeing all these old guys, you know, I definitely Super Lover C, Casanova Rudd, you know, those are some of my favorites, you know, and you know, Black Rock and Ron, you know, I was Dana Dane, Nightmares, that was always, you know, so those things that inspired me. Like Dana Dane was like the storyteller, you know, Slick Rick, they were storytellers. Kane was on that real lyrical, smooth, but you know, he had that flow. You know, Rakim was straight lyrical. and would just hit you with constant, thoughts and ideas. So those were the ones that kind of really shaped the direction of how I started rhyming.
Okay. Did you have any mentors? Anybody that was sort of already doing it, that was helping you out as far as how to format, how to break everything down, or was it all self-taught?
Nah, that was self-taught, and just like I said, being a student of just music itself. I've always just been very attentive, and I tune into what, if something, I enjoy it, I'm gonna really tune in and break it down, like, on some scientific shit. We're gonna break it down and see how this works. Well, how does this work? So it was just a thing that I just kept at. I kept that. So like I said, growing up, I was, not one of the popular cats. So I was always writing. I'm always in my own head, so it gave me a lot of time to formulate and think. And so just that, and being, like I said, around other cats who I was growing up with, who also were super talented, and we kind of just bounced off each other. Like I would see my man write a verse, I'm like, oh shit, that's crazy. I gotta write something better than that, and it just, but formulating words, I just always loved putting words together. I always felt it was almost like DNA, you know what I mean? Like you can put it in any combination and you'll come up with so many different beautiful, images. So it was just a fun thing for me. I always felt it fun to put words together.
Nice. Yeah, I just want to make a quick mention. Earlier, when we've just started, you mentioned DJ Cheese, and I don't want to just kind of overlook that. Like, for anybody that's watching this, go look him up, DJ Cheese, man. He's legendary. You know what I mean? World supremacy DJ, first world. I mean, he's accomplished a lot, man. So, I just want to acknowledge him, man, and all his accomplishments. So, moving up a little bit, did you ever get to a point where, or at what point do you say, I want to try and get either a record deal, or do we shop some demos? Do we put a demo together? How did all of that come about?
So that came about as well, when we were in high school. We had a talent show. At this point, we were already getting recognized for doing hip hop. We had a talent show, and me and my partners, we did a song from A Tribe Called Quest, Can I Kick It? I mean, that came out at the time. That was a big hit. And so we did that at the talent show. And I never forget that. We were in the middle of the show. But when we got up and started doing that, the whole auditorium erupted and rushed the stage. Like, one girl actually grabbed my leg and almost yanked me off the stage. You know what I mean? And just at one point we were just told everybody, yo, just come on the stage, because everybody was already rushing the stage. Okay. So at that point, I saw the impact that it had to all my classmates and peers, all the ones who necessarily didn't know who I was on a day-to-day. But when they saw us up on stage, it put us in a whole different perspective. And so when I saw that, that's when we were like, you know what? Let's do something serious with this. Let's do something serious. And then we started working at that. We started putting things together. And we clicked up some of my people back then, and that was 91. That was the first time I linked up with Science of Life, because they were part of my clique back. We were part of the same clique back in 91. You know what I mean? They had moved out to North Plainfield, and we was all, how towns are. They all talk, and they, so the best ones from this town would link with the best ones from that one. So we all kind of came together at that time. And then, Science Life, as you know, they went off and started rocking out with Bobito and Stretch with Fonda. And so we saw this and we're like, you know what? This is what we're here to do.
Okay. Now, at what point did you what was the direction? Or who were you trying to reach? Did you try to get through Bobito because they did, or?
Well, that's the thing. I wasn't really in, my thing was I was just into doing music. I wasn't into necessarily. So my thing is this: I'm the type of person where it's I love this. I'm gonna do this forever, no matter what. That's why you see me now at this age. A lot of people may not know me. Some do know me, but I've always had that love for this, and that's what one thing people, I think, it resonates with people when they see me. They're like, oh, you still doing this? Because and you still nice with it, because it's I have that passion for it. So it didn't really matter to me. Even though you want to be recognized, you want to be, but I didn't seriously think oh, let me go get a record deal. Even though there were times when I was approached by some companies with record deals, and they weren't the best record deals. Once I let my parents at the time let them check it out and let their lawyers check it out, it was nah, don't do that. But I was still focused on just putting out good music, because the whole point was to put out music to inspire people the way I was inspired.
Mm-hmm.
So when I heard all of these artists, it didn't matter that they was famous. It didn't matter how much money they had. I just knew that what they were saying was resonating with me, and I felt like this was they talking about me and what I'm going through, or I could relate to what they're saying.
Right.
So that's really all it was for me. I was like, I'm gonna keep doing this shit no matter what. You know? Yeah.
What was your guys' breakthrough moment as a group?
Let's see. Well, that's the thing. Like, so as a group, we kind of, as we grew up, some of us stopped doing it. Some went into different, different avenues. One of my brothers became a pastor. Some of my brothers, they went different routes. And some of us stayed, loyal and kept doing it. So as a group, it's very difficult to navigate with, multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
Because if people don't have the same passion or drive or work ethic, it's not going to work. So I kind of let go of the whole group thing, and I was more focused on just becoming the best that I could be. I love my crews and my groups, but like I said, at that point things started changing. Like, so that was like, at the end of high school, people started going off to college. Some of them was going off to wherever. Me, I moved from there to the city. Like, even back when I was in high school, I was actually living in New York. I was in the Lower East.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the beats from the Lower East come from, because that's also where I also hone my skills, because I grew up in the Lower East. So from high school, I was living in New York and actually going to school in Jersey, which was crazy at the time. But living in the city, I met so many other artists, and like I said, the Lower East Side was always a melting pot of every borough. Everybody came down there to party, and so being around that kind of vibe and hitting up all these open mics, I met so many people that I'm friends with to this day, and so that also honed my skills. And seeing that was even more tricky, because you have all these new people, but now it's even harder to get people together because now it's even more. So I was never focused on group things after like high school, because I saw that it didn't really connect like that. Like, Science of Life went off, and that was my brothers. I was happy for them. And that was like the ones from our crew that made it, at that time. But I was always still there, as well as some of my other brothers. I was always still there, creating and rocking, and I was always doing my thing. So whenever we would all connect, everybody knew what it was.
Right. What was your creative process once leaving the group and becoming a solo artist? And what's different when you got to collab with a bunch of different people? So as far as going, what was the difference in going your creative process?
It's a lot more work. It's a lot more thought, because now you have a whole song to do. Whereas we have a group, you only got to worry about 16 bars. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what you want to do for the hook? Oh, we'll figure something else out. But now when you have a whole song where you're doing it yourself, now you have to think beginning to end. You have to think about the concept. You have to think about where this is going. What are you saying? What's your hook? What are you going to rhyme about? And then you have to arrange it, and you have to put it in the right places so that it translates well. So it's a lot of work to be a solo artist, and it's a lot of like, it's like you either gonna swing your sword and get the victory, or you're gonna fall on your sword, because people are like, hey, it's just you. You have nobody else to look at. Like, oh, why didn't you? Oh, no, it's just me. So you definitely have to put a lot more thought into what you're doing, and in working the process. So like you were saying, Sincere, like the whole process of doing songs on your own, it's a step by step where depending on your, well, my process was always just to once I hear a beat, I try to find a melody. Once I find the melody, I love rhythms. Once I find the rhythm, I start humming a little, something, and then once I get that melody, then it's like, oh, that sounds good. Now it's like, let me find the words that fit that melody. So that's now it's in the crafting stages. But really, it's the first thing is just about getting the overall idea, like a little sketch. Like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to put? I'm going to put the trees over here. I'm going to put the water over here. Like, if you're painting, you got to have a little idea, and then from there, now you go into the detail.
Right.
Do you remember the first song you put out there that sort of, started hitting, that people started taking notice of?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And around what time was that?
Well, this is a long time. Wow. Yeah, that's a long time ago. Yeah, I would say the first song was probably in 1999.
99. Okay.
I had an album I put out called oh Jesus Christ, Levels of Existence.
Okay.
Levels of Existence, produced by my brother DJ Preservation.
Mhm.
As you know, rocks with Mos and Ka and a lot of great artists. So we like I've been around a lot of good people, right? So my man Prez, we did a song called Cosmic Groove,
Mhm.
and that song kind of took off where I used to see people all over the place, like, and they, back then we were selling, cassettes, and then it went to CDs. But people, when we would perform as well. But whenever we perform, people would get the album, and they would be like, "Yo, that song, Cosmic Groove," And then some people would sing that. I would see them. Oh, they start singing the hook, and that's when I started knowing, like, oh, these people like that kind of vibe,
Okay.
or they like my vibe. And so, I just from there it was like, okay, let me keep going. Let me get a little more deeper into it now, because now it's really more. I have to, and that's what it is. You honing your skills over the years. You working at it. You grinding. So I'm gonna work it and get better. I'm gonna sharpen this sword up. And so that's really that was the first one, probably Cosmic Groove back in '99.
How did you link up with the producer?
Well, I met Preservation back a little bit earlier than that. Around 95, 96 with my man Fred One, TME Studios. And back then, like, there was a lot of people in that camp that I was working with. My man Rob Sonic from Sonic Sum. At that time it was Sonic Sum.
Okay.
Rest in peace to my man Seams, Cooper Fett.
Yes.
But they were starting, and they were on fire. They were rocking. They were rocking with Def Jux at one point. They were on fire.
Mhm.
So from them, then it was like my man Creature, who has his group now. He went into rock, Rebelmatic. So we were all doing things that were creative, but we were all coming together. And I think just being around, meeting them, that TME, that TME vibe changed everything. I met Mike Ladd through TME. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I was on a couple Mike Ladd albums, and I met so many good people, man. And so I think that's really what changed it for me, was
Okay.
being around them. And that's how I met Preservation,
Nice.
and we just all linked up, and me and Prez are both, both Virgos. So we kind of like, we have kind of a similar like to certain things. So we
Vibes.
just, yeah.
You talked about hitting the open mic circuit and stuff like that. Can you mention some of the spots that you hit up?
Oh man, back then, so we would hit up places like Alcatraz. We would hit up oh my God. I mean,
Was it like the what was it?
EO Dub,
Yeah.
the pyramid.
Vice
We would hit
versa.
up a spot called Pianos in the lower.
Okay.
We would hit up a spot on the west side on 14th Street over by the meatpacking district, over by Two Eyes and Nels. It was just there. We used to hit up all. I mean, any open mic that was going on, we were there. Like, we would just crash shit. Like, we would go in and we see people. Oh, what's going on here? You just hear some. We might just be walking down the street. Yeah, because Cass back then we was out in the street all the time. Cass was out there hustling, whatever. So you see, hear some noise, start getting late. What's going on? Oh, these guys is rapping. Yo, we in here, and we would just go in there and just start, jumping up. Oh, let me get up on the mic, So we would hit up any mic that was around,
Right. So, how going through all the stuff that you've been talking about? How do you end up linking up with Kool Keith?
Man, so Kool, that's a funny story. So I used to see Kool Keith. I ran to Kool Keith one day. I think it was my birthday. I went up to TME to go get something. I don't know if it was some weed or something. And my man was in a session with Keith. So he was like, "Yeah, I'm in a session right now." I was like, "Oh shit!" And so Keith was like, "Yo, yeah, you can come in and sit down if you want." I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, just mad cool. And from that moment, just watching him go through his process, I was just, real quiet and observant. Like I said, I'm a student. I'm studying. And then we just were always cool, but we would always, in passing, we would always say a good word. He'd be like, "Oh, what's going on with the music?" Because they would play him some of my stuff, whatever. And so he would always ask me as a pastor, "Yo, how's the music going? Everything's good. I'm going this way, he going that way. We should do something one day." And boom, that was it. And then maybe maybe a year after that, my man Fred One hit me one night and was like, "Yo, Keith just hit me and asked me for your number." I was like, "What? Get the fuck? What are you talking about? Give it to him, man!" Like, you know, I was excited, you know. And so at that point, I spoke to Keith, and Keith he was such a humble dude and such a real guy. Like, I don't even know if I should say this because I don't want people to you know, misunderstand. You know, we're you know, people are serious about what they do, but he was such a humble and generous and genuine individual that he was just like, "Yo, I just didn't want 5 years to go by and we not do nothing." He's like, "We always say we're gonna do something. I didn't want 5 years to go by and we didn't do nothing."
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
And then
that's crazy.
from that point, I just was like, you know what? That's my big bro. I was like, anytime you call me, I'm there. And so we just started working. And so he would start calling me, "Yo, come to the studio. You know, you my spawn partner, you know." And so
Nice.
we started rocking, you know, and now, you know, we got some joints out. We got joints out there. A lot of them have been leaked and not have really been you know, put out fully. But I do have a single called All City Ballers that was produced by Kool Keith, featuring Kool Keith. We have a video for that as well. But like, you know, we got a lot of work in, you know, we got still doing music. Yeah.
Was he the first artist, let's say, of his stature that you linked up with or worked with in any shape, form, or fashion? Was there somebody before him?
I've worked with big name people. Like I've worked with my man Gemini the Gifted One, legend as well. I've been I've performed, I've opened up for Jay Electronica, and most, you know, I got, you know, I've been around a lot of good artists, but I would say Keith is probably the biggest, you know what I mean? Like, he's a superstar. It's not even no question. Like, I mean, a lot of people I know are superstars in their own right, but Keith is a legend because his career has been so long. Like, I was watching his and listening to his shit, you know, 84, 85, you know, it's like, yo, 86. It's like, yo, these cats was my teachers growing up, in a sense, you know. Like,
right.
So yeah, that's probably the biggest. Yeah,
that's great. Yo, there's so much history. I can't really imagine what it would be like to be in the same room with somebody like Kool Keith and absorbing so much history,
wisdom and knowledge. He has a lot, you know, and he's taught me a lot, you know. And like I said, he'll just say some things, and it's like sometimes, you know, you're like, what? And then later on, it's like, oh shit, now I get it. You know, like I used to, when I be honest, I used to watch him, you know, when he used to write, and after he would finish, you know, rhyming, you know, take the paper and after he finished spitting it, he would rip it up. I asked him, I was like, yo, why are you ripping up your rhyme? Like, oh, that's how I know I don't spit that again. Smart. Everybody has a process. You know what I mean? But he's a legend, and he's a master of the craft. So I learned so much just by being around, you know. And so once again, it's just about learning that and then passing it on to others. You know what I mean? I've also, like I said, like I rock with, you know, my brother Curious as well. You know, Curious is my big bro too. Much respect, salute to Curious. You know, I'm on his new album, Monkey Man. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's
from back then too, from the early days.
That's more recent.
Okay.
That's more recent. Yeah, we doing that now. That's more recent. But and like I said, the Kool Keith, that's more recent too. That's more like, you know, in my grown man years, you know. But once again, like as we grow and we hone our skills, we get sharper, you know. We age, like, you know, like fine wine. So at this point now, it's like I almost feel like a brother's worthy to be around certain people like that.
Right.
When I was younger, I might not have been, you know, because when I was younger, I was just so hungry and energy, but it was just like almost like buckshot. It was just everywhere. But now it's like we sniper rifle now. We sniper now.
Nice.
What came after Levels of Existence in '99?
So after Levels of Existence, it took me a little while. Like, so I've done a few things. I have projects that I've never put out because I'm very picky, right? Because the whole thing is that I don't want to put something out that's subpar. So I'm very hard and critical on what I do, because it's really about putting out good music. I never liked cats who just in. So, but after Levels of Existence, I did an album with my man Preservation. We did that, and I would say we put that out in 2014. We did a joint called Of Monolithic Proportions. And and that was a great one, because they actually wrote about that up in the source. Chairman Mao wrote up about that, and you know, like look out for this, you know. And it was a short, it was an EP. It was only 7 songs, maybe about 15 minutes, because everything was short. Because we understood like people's attention span was not, you know, people ain't paying attention. You'd be lucky if a DJ played the first verse, you know what I mean? So we started making songs that were really short, just so, you know, it make you want to rewind it, you know what I mean? So we put this album out of Monolithic Proportions, and that kind of took off as well, where it inspired a lot of things. So one of those songs inspired me is we did a song called Don't Cry. And then one of my cousins from DC was like, oh, did you hear about, you know, this Jay Dilla? I was like, and that was before I even, you know, I was listening to Jay Dilla's music, but I wasn't reading the credits, so I didn't know that he was producing some shit I was listening to. So then my man was like, oh, he did this album called Donuts. I was like, oh, really? So in 2007, actually, a little bit before that, I actually I actually wrote to the whole album, to the Donuts album, which I never put out, but it's coming soon. We're gonna put that out. You know what I mean? We're gonna send it out, just, you know, with love. You know, we're not trying to sell nothing. It's just all about love. But I was always inspired to just try to create good music. So if something felt good, that's where we're gonna go. But the Monolithic Proportions was a great album. A lot of good stories on there. And I think the thing that we did with the 7 songs was that every song was a different vibe. So it wasn't just like, oh, yeah, it sounds like the same shit. You know, it was like every song had a different sound, a different style. And it just made people like, wait a minute, what's this? Like, so it kind of caught people's attention, you know.
Can you talk a little bit about Sophisticated Savage?
Yeah, for sure. Sophisticated Savage, that's my brother Rhinoceros Funk. That's my brother DJ MC White Owl. And that's myself, Yahzeed. So we came together and formed because we were always at the studios. We were always together. And it was just like we were all solo artists. And so we were like, you know what? We each got individual styles because we're solo. Why don't we come together and form a team? You know, and it was something that you never expect to see, you know, 3 totally different, you know, backgrounds. And here we come together as one. And so when we started doing that, we started getting such a good energy. Like, so we actually put out 2 albums, Sophisticated Savage, the first one, and we put out the second one. And it's been a wonderful journey rocking with them. You know, we've done shows with, you know, Killer Priest and you know, some big name cats, you know, all over the place, man. And we've gone to, you know, Miami rocking, you know, we've all, you know, just all over the place. But it was always such a good energy seeing like all 3 of us together, because like I said, like Rhino is such a smart dude, and he comes, you know, he gonna educate you. White Owl is a straight, you know, energized, you know, he's an energizer bunny, be like, you know what I mean, like, for better lack of words. But he's such a talented dude, and like, you know, and so when we come together, we have a natural chemistry, and it's so different that it's refreshing, you know. So it wasn't like we forced anything, but it was such a natural thing, and that shit came off well, man. We really terrorized stages, you know what I mean? We terrorized stages, yeah.
And Agents of Reform, how did that come about?
Yeah, so Agents of Reform came about around the pandemic, right? So in the pandemic, everybody was, you know, home, nobody was around each other, but me and Rhino, we would always see each other still, you know, like he was still doing the radio show at Gorilla Grooves at TME Studio. So we would always get together every week anyway. But, you know, we were always, you know, just we're close like that. We're, you know, yo, you know, come by. And so as we were dealing with this pandemic, we were just like, yo, let's not just sit here. Like, let's do something. Like, let's, and it just made us create. And we did this. And this was like the first album that we did where, like, it was all produced by us in a sense, like mostly Rhino. It wasn't even me, but Rhino was, you know, we were on that trail. We were like, you know, we wanted to keep working. We wanted to stay sharp. We didn't want to, you know, take no time, or, you know, it was like, it was something to keep our sanity, you know. And so we got to what we know. We went back to writing. And so we put that album together during the pandemic. And, you know, when the pandemic started easing up, that's when we started going out and performing, you know, and that's been crazy too. You know what I mean? Like we've even opened up for Cool Keith out, you know, out of state, you know what I mean, at certain shows. So it was a good energy, you know what I mean. So it was just, like I said, White Owl was, a little farther away. So me and Rhino were a little closer. So it was like, I'm always here. We always hanging out, chilling, getting high, do what we do, making that music, So that album was amazing. And that's a different album. That's more of a, like I said, like Agents of Reform, like I said, is more of it's like, we came from the perspective of like, everybody out here in this world are agents, but it's really about who do you work for? Do you work for somebody else or do you work for yourself? And so we came from a perspective where we wanted to just shine a little light on like all the crazy shit that's going on in the world, politically, economically, racially. There's so many things that people deal with, and the only way to really deal with shit sometimes is to communicate about it, because you might not know that somebody else might feel similar if you don't communicate. So we felt like let's attack this from a let's infiltrate. Let's infiltrate, and then we're gonna destroy. It's like the spook who sat by the door. Tell everybody to go back and look that up, right? That's a great movie for everybody to look up.
Right.
How'd you link up with iTruth?
So iTruth, I've known iTruth. I met iTruth through DJ Preservation, and so this is years ago. So I've known iTruth for 20, almost 25, 30 years.
Oh wow.
And so so I would say 25 years. Like, it's been a while. But we were cool. And we kind of, everybody's living their life, so everybody kind of separate, doing their thing. But then I started running into iTruth at random places, and it was just like, yo, what's up? Like, and then we just started vibing, and then some more time passed, and then we reconnected again. And like I said, when you know people and you have a certain love and trust for people, it don't matter how much time goes by. The next time you see them, it's just like yesterday. You know what I mean? So we always had this good connection, this good energy. And then, like I said, all along, sharpening the skills, getting better with it, working. And so I started developing, and then boom, we linked up, and now we have an album coming out. So we have an album coming out called Divine Truth. We actually have a joint company together called Divine Truth. DJ Truth, Yahzeed Divine, and together, like, we do production. I've started doing production as well. So I've been just doing rhymes for like 30, 40 years, and all of a sudden in the last 2.5 years I started making beats. So now I got some I got Keith on. I got Cool Keith on one of my beats. I got my man Gemini the Gifted one on one of my beats, collabing with me on a song. We got a song called War Trumps All. Right, basically what's going on. Y'all gonna see the visuals of the videos for that soon. But so now it's like I said, when I met iTruth, he helped me to express myself through the music, because he saw that that's what I wanted to do. Because at a certain point, I used to tell that to Keith. I was like, I don't want to be out here running around with you and like, oh, what you do? Oh, you rhyme? Oh, that's all? Like, so it's like, after doing things for a while, it's like you want to, the natural thing is to progress and develop. So I was tired of getting bullshit beats from cats, like, I was like, wait a minute, you know who I am, you know what I do, you know the kind of work I put in. You gonna give me this bullshit? What's wrong with you? So I got tired of waiting, you know what I mean? So it was like, let me start making some shit. And so that's kind of, and like I said, iTruth was always bigging me up and helping me, like, just step up and develop. And so we've been on a tear ever since. So we actually got a couple albums ready to to set loose on the world. We got the Divine Truth coming up.
Any when can we expect that? Any time soon, or
it won't come soon? Because like, so the whole thing is this. I just put this other album out called Divine Intervention.
yeah,
Silent Someone, which we did maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And like I said, I'm very picky, and so sometimes I'll sit on things and I'll just be like, I don't know. But iTruth was like, look, man, like, let's keep going forward. What we doing now is super fire, right? So he was like, look, just put it out. Like, let that be, and let's go. Don't look back. Like, let's go. So I was like, you know what? Stop waiting on that. Let me just put that out so I can make room for the new stuff that's coming. So we like I said, it's been some years in between projects, because like I said, I've always been working, and I have a million collabs that I've been doing with cats as well. Lewis Parker. I got Auxiliary Arms, my man Lifelong. You know what I mean, Masai Bay. You know what I mean. We got a lot. But I've been around doing things, but it's really about now, like you said, it's about putting my stuff out and not waiting, not sitting on it. Like, what am I waiting for?
Well, I was going to ask you that. I mean, what is it exactly? You keep saying that you're picky, but as far as what? Like, is it that you're not really liking it? You're not sure about it? Like what?
Well, see, that's the thing. As a Virgo, I'm a perfectionist, but
Okay.
perfection can never be reached. All you can do is strive for the best you can do.
Right.
So my thing is that sometimes I'm my own worst enemy, where it's like I have some shit, and all my dudes will be like, yo, listen to this fire. And I'm like, I don't like the mix on that. Or maybe I don't like the way I said this. And this is another thing which made me start getting into producing and engineering, because I engineer as well now. I've been mixing my own shit as well.
Mm-hmm.
But because now I feel like I can have my shit sound the way I hear it in my head. Whereas before, you go to a studio, that engineer may not know how you want to sound. So whatever his vision is not necessarily my vision. So that's where my pickiness would come in.
Okay.
Because I always wanted to make my vision be the vision. So if I'm talking about one thing and then you putting up the visuals and the music of something else, now the message is kind of crazy. I wasn't feeling with that. I wasn't feeling good about that. So I was just, like, let me make sure this is right the way I want it to be. And that's all. It's just about taking your time to do something right. Some people want to rush shit out and it sounds like shit because you're rushing it. You just, I put out 18 albums in the last week, but
right.
Suck. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing? Take time and do one that's good. I don't want to get an album where it's like you got 13, 15 songs and only one is a banger. Like, it's a waste of time. So I try to make everything, important and impactful. So I want to make it full. I don't want to give people like, one of them was cool.
Yeah.
Everything, but from different perspectives, because we all wear many hats. So I'm gonna tell all kinds of stories, and sometimes we have to go into different personas to tell these stories. So sometimes Yahzeed Divine can't tell a certain story because it might be a little too dark. So that's my alter ego might come out. Anthony Bates. The dark side of the force. Rest in peace, man. James Earl Jones, man.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
I have to say that, I'm the red-eyed Jedi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you see the Empire State Building, man?
Yo, it's looking crazy, man. Like, I can't even imagine, bro. Like, that man changed a lot, man. His catalog is ridiculous, but that shit is serious, man. But that's what we do. We try to make good music, and that's all. So my problem was always just taking my time to put out something good. I always wanted to take the time because it doesn't make sense for me to put it out there and it's trash. And also when you have kids, it's like you don't want to just put things out there because it's like your kids listen to it, other kids listen to it. So I don't curse a lot of my music. I make curse like a sailor when we talking because that's what we do. But I don't promote certain things. I don't. And like I said, that's the good thing about hip hop and playing with words is like, how many ways can you say something? It's like you want to think outside the box of how to say shit. So it's like, I'm not going to just say it the way, it may simply want to, you might think it's going to come out. I try to be real intricate with the wordplay. And so we start doing all kinds of patterns. And so it gets really deep when you really go into it. So, my thing is just putting out good music, man, taking my time.
Does it make it a little harder for you now to pick somebody else's beat, like being that you're producing and engineering, or does it make it a little easier for you?
It makes it a lot easier because, like regardless, you like what you like. If something is good, it's good. It don't matter who made it. There's certain shit I made that I was like, nah, that shit's trash. I don't like that. But it's just like anything that's good is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you. I can just imagine though, because this is one thing about artists that like it irks me sometimes. You guys be sitting on so much dope stuff. Yeah. But because there's something about it you don't like, the world doesn't get to hear it.
That's true. And
that's true. And right. I get it. But I used to, there was this guy from South Carolina, same thing, artist, and he would have all these songs recorded and everything. He would let me listen to it, right? But he would then put it out. Oh. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm not sure about this. I might want to change. I'm like, yo, this is dope. And then the thing too is that sometimes you be sitting on something that might have been like 2 or 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That I hear, and I kept telling him like, yo, but do you understand that it's gonna be new to somebody else?
Yes.
Like even though it's 3 years it's old to you.
Yeah. Artists don't see that sometimes, you know.
I know.
That you're talking about, that might be my cousin, because we we on the same frequency.
His name is Melodramatic. He's down in South Carolina.
I feel you, bro. Mellow, shout out, bro. Put that shit out though, bro. But this is what I'm doing too. I'm gonna take my own advice. I'm putting this shit out because you're right. You know, it's like we as artists are our biggest critics. You know, so and you kind of should be. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't. You know, but at the same time, you don't want to sit on something. You know what I mean? And also because sometimes things could be dated, depending on you certain phrases you might use. Right. You know, you mention somebody and like, wait a minute, that motherfucker's been dead. You know, so it's like, and now it sounds that you can't put it out now because it's dated.
Yeah,
so you're right. It's about putting it out. And also, I learned that from my man Fred One. He was like, yo, because I used to be notorious for that. I would go into the studio, do something, go home, listen to it, and be like, I don't like that. Let me come back and redo that. And he would tell me all the time, he's like, all right, but you're paying for it. That's cool. But then he'd be like, yo, at the end of the day, you never get that same feeling. That energy is never going to be the same. And so I had to learn, like, you know what? Let it go. And so this is where it's coming to the point where, yeah, you're right. You got to let that music out because the world needs to hear that. Yeah.
Divine Intervention just dropped this month. Can you talk a little bit about that project?
Yes, sir. Divine Intervention. That was a project that took a while coming, but that was my man Silent Someone on the production. And we got together and we just, it was a summertime that, it was a lot going on family wise. He was going through things with his family. I'm going through things with my family. And this was like, once again, the therapy, and so when we put this together, a lot of the things that I was going through, I was speaking on them. And so this album is very, it's about fighting through, you know what I mean? And really coming out, on the other side, just by coming out, you're victorious. You know what I mean? So you have to measure your wins and losses, but it's like we put this album together. And it was very important because we're talking about a lot. That's the thing. I talk about a lot of things that people don't necessarily want to talk about or know how to talk about. And that's the thing. Like growing up in the era that I grew up, we didn't talk about things. Like nowadays, you got a million names for everything. Oh, I got ADD, ADHD. You got, so I get it. But to be honest with you, it's like when you give things so many different titles, it almost takes responsibility off people. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to say anything other than the fact that we grew up in that era where you had to tie yourself tie up your boots and get it going. You know what I mean? There was no you couldn't lay down or else you was gonna die.
It gives them an excuse to kind of not like, oh, I don't do this because I have that.
Because that, right. We couldn't do that back then. It was like, go get that shit. You know what I mean? It was a whole different energy. And so I think I talk about things that are because I understand that communication is important, which goes back to what I was saying earlier with you guys. And so communicating, like I said, I was inspired by hip hop. This can inspire someone else. And let me talk about things that people don't talk about. So just like those OGs that I listened to, like Grand Poobah and Masters of Ceremony way back then, and Brand Nubian, all these guys, like when I listened to these people, they were inspiring and teaching me. Let me pass that on to the next generation. Let me teach someone else. And then maybe not even the next generation. It could be someone in my own generation who just didn't have that outlet or didn't see it from that perspective. So I always try to work things into that realm, so that's why I say it has to be meaningful. So that's why sometimes I would look at old songs and be like, oh, this was some bullshit. Like I'm just rhyming just to, rhyme words, but there's no real substance there. Not doing that. Some people just don't mind. They'll throw out anything, but I hold myself to a higher standard. And so that's why I work as hard as I do to try to make good music or impactful music. It doesn't have to be a 18-minute song. It could be a minute and 20 seconds, but at the same time, it's going to give you what you need. You know what I mean? So that's the thing with just this level with the Divine Intervention. That was like a time I called it Divine Intervention because it was like that light for me to say, you know what? I got to make a change and go a different direction. And I started seeing things in a different perspective as I started getting a little bit older. And it was just like, yeah, let's put this out. And so a lot of that is very much based on just human interaction. A lot of things that people don't talk about. They don't talk about depression. They might say, oh, they'll prescribe you some medication. But like I said, that's some bullshit, because a lot of times you get hooked on the medication. That's not really helping the problem. That's just giving you more problems. But once again, no responsibility. I try to take responsibility, you know what I mean? And so we're gonna work it like that. We always try to give the people something that they need. And I mean, not just what they want, but something that they need. But we try to give it to you in the form that of what you want. That way it makes the medicine go down a little easier. You know what I mean?
Right.
What has the feedback been like so far?
Feedback is always good, my friend. Like, just like when I came and rock with you guys, it's like a lot of people had not seen me or not know, whatever. But it's like, oh shit, like, oh, I didn't know it was gonna be like this. This is what it is. Because I try to always give that extra, because I understand that, like, as an artist, I used to hate going to shows and seeing cats, and this is notorious. Like, yo, I just paid to come see you rhyme. Yeah. I'm not gonna rhyme. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see you put the performance on. So I always try to come out and I try to put in that blood, sweat, and tears. I always give my all. I don't rhyme over the lyrics and none of that. I give it to you raw. I give it, because every time it changes. It's something that my father told me about Miles Davis a long time ago, where Miles used to give concerts, and then people be like, oh, I want to make a request, and Miles would tell you right there, like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not taking requests. If you want to hear that song, go get the album. Right. Because every time you perform, it's a new life, it's a new entity,
new experience.
Yeah, when you're on stage, your breathing is different. So I'm not gonna rhyme over the track. When I'm in the studio, it sounds a little different because I'm standing still. Now I'm moving around, so now I gotta flow with it. So every show is its own life, So I always try to give that extra energy and just give you a good show,
Right.
Give you good information, good flow, good stage presence, and interactive, So
where can fans find that project at?
Oh, you can find the Divine Intervention. That's out everywhere. That's on. You got that on Apple Music. That's on my Bandcamp. That's on DistroKid. That's on Deezer. That's on Spotify. That's on any platform now out there. YouTube, everything, man. We got that everywhere. It just dropped on September 3rd. So yeah, we working, man. But we just wanted to get that out the way because we got so much more. Like you said, Uncle E, I can't be holding it back. I gotta.
You gotta let it go, man. You gotta let it go.
I don't want nobody to come after I'm dead and be like, "Yo, I gotta use your thumb to get your phone open and get that joint, son."
Yeah.
I gotta put that out.
Yes, sir. Yeah. After talking to you now, I'm like realizing one thing that's making me really become more, I guess, of a fan of yours is the whole. Okay, me and Sincere talk about this all the time, right? We feel that, like, these days, the way everything is, it's lost a lot of its essence as far as when somebody's getting ready to put out an album, the expectation of going to buy the album and getting the physical, right? Like, we've lost all of that.
Right.
Everything that's happened with you, as far as with us, has been kind of very organic, and it kind of gives us that feeling. Like I said earlier, right? I didn't realize exactly who you were at the moment. I'm just like, yo, Truth is my man. Yes. I know what he does. If he's putting his name on it, it got to be dope. I went and checked out your music because at the same time, I'm like, he's like, Truth is my man, but I still got to see.
I got to check. I got to see for myself. Yes.
I did that. Listen to some songs like, yo, he's dope.
Thanks.
Sincere had the same.
I went and I was like, oh shit.
Like, yo, this is dope.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then you come out to the event.
Yes.
Even though I heard the music, but I still don't know what to expect, right? You get on the mic.
Right.
Got on the mic, killed it. Me and Sincere again, we're like, yo, dude, this is dope, man. Like, he's dope. And then, we're coming across more music. You put out the Divine Intervention. I'm like, everything is dope. And I'm listening to you talk and listening to everything you're saying.
Yes.
That molded you to be who you are. And I'm like, yo, this is why I like to do. So I'm not afraid to say that I don't know every artist that's out there, even if they've been out there for years. I might not know everybody. If I did, it'd be boring.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, man, it's you giving me that feeling, man, that dope feeling of like, oh, I just discovered something new and it's dope.
Thank you, brother.
So thank you, man, because it's hard. Me and Sincere, every time something comes out or a project, we're just like,
That's terrible.
You know, I mean, I hate to say it, but there's not
Right.
that much good stuff out there.
It's a lot of trash, my friend.
It is.
A lot of it is not real, it's not honest. But like you said, brothers, our interactions and our building process has always been organic, and that's how it's supposed to be. Like, so, you know, when you ask me about how I pick my beats, it has to be organic. I don't care who made it. If it's good, it's good. And then whatever I can do to it to make it better, that's what we're going to do to make it good, to make it better, you know? So that's what it has to be, my friends. Like, all that other shit is all posturing. It's all bullshit. Like, there's so many people, oh, cop my album. And it's like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You know,
you got to give people a reason these days to want to put money in. You know, before you didn't have a choice. You had to get the album or whatever to see if it was good.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, nowadays you can go and listen, and if you don't like it, you're not going to spend the money, or even to go out to see a show or anything like that. You know what I mean? So
for sure,
it's tough, man. But yeah, thank you, man. We appreciate it. Yo, before we get out of here, can you let everybody know where they can keep up with you, where they can find you? You know, any merch? Do you have anything like that? We kind of skipped over that.
Yeah, no, I do. I do. I have some merch. Let me see. Where's my shit at? I have a couple things that so we got we got the Yahzeed mugs.
Nice,
You
okay.
know what I mean? So you can get that on Rap FM. You know what I mean? You can get these. You get t-shirts as well. Got t-shirts, Rap FM. You could also go to my Bandcamp. You know what I mean? Go to Yahzeed. Go Bandcamp / Yahzeed Divine. You could check that out. But you can find me anywhere, man. You can find me on Instagram, Yahzilla. You can find me as YAHZILLAH. Don't forget the H. Some people leave off the H at the end. But yeah, that's how you find me. You can find me, like I said, Yahzeed Divine on YouTube. You can find me on all the social sites or whatever, man. Like, I'm not really a social dude. Like I said, like, I'm more of an artist. Like, I'm in the lab. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in the lab right now. Like, I'm about to work on some shit, in a minute. But the whole thing is that you can find me on any platform out there. Like, we got music out there. Like I said, I got shit with my man Preservation on hit. You can check Mondial Music. That's his music label. I'm also on one of his, mixed compilations called Old Numbers. You know what I mean? With some legends on that one as well. But you can find me. I'm everywhere, man. Yahzeed, YAHZEED Divine, or you can find me at YAHZILLAH. Just look me up, man. Yahzeed Divine, Yahzilla, Beast from the Lower East. You know what I mean? The Red Eye Jedi. You find me everywhere. I'm everywhere.
So,
yeah.
Well, thank you once again, man. We appreciate you for taking the time. Much success to you, man. And we're looking forward to all your new stuff. Anytime you got anything, just feed us, man. You don't have to ask nothing. You got something coming out, an event, whatever it is, man. Just let us know so we can post it out there for you.
Most definitely, brothers. Bless you, man. I'm gonna definitely hit y'all up soon because we got some new shit coming soon, man.
Let us know.
Yeah, we ready, man. We got some videos coming too, man. Truth. We on it like that, man.
I know. True. Yeah, that dude is shout out to our Truth, man.
Our Truth, man. That's my big bro, man. Shout out to my brother, Our Truth, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There's nothing but love in my camp, yo. So, like I said, man, all the legends that I run with, I learned so much from all of them, and this is what it's about: is passing that information on. Like, this is the changing of the guard, right?
No doubt.
No doubt.
There you go.
Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, brothers, always, man. Love and much respect. Salute to y'all, man. Thank y'all for having me on your show.
Yes, sir. Peace.